The next circle theorem that we're going to look at is the arrow theorem. And the reason we call it the arrow theorem is because we get this shape that looks a little bit like an arrow that's formed. So it's where you take any 2 points on the edge of the circle, for example A and B, and we join them together as an angle at the centre, and we join them together as an angle at the circumference. And when this happens, the angle at the centre is double the angle at the circumference. So whatever this angle here at the centre is, half of it is this one here. And whatever the one at the circumference is, double it is in the centre. So we call this one the arrow theorem. So for example, to find x on this one, then we would need to halve 84 because it's the angle at the circumference and we've been given the angle at the centre, and that would be 42 degrees. Looking at question 2, it's still an arrow shape, even though it doesn't necessarily look like one. It's just that this point here has kind of slipped down. It might have been here originally and it's kind of slipped back down to here. So it kind of doesn't look like an arrow shape, but it still is. We still have the same thing where we have these 2 points here and they're meeting at the centre and they're meeting at the circumference. So the same thing still applies. So all we need to do is 35 times 2, and that's going to give me 70. So my angle there is 70 degrees at the centre. Looking at these ones, we have the same sort of thing. So the first one we can see there, we have the arrow shape. So x is going to be half of 52. So x is going to be 26 degrees. So it's really good practice in the exam just to kind of draw over these shapes if you see any, and then that will remind you that you have like an arrow, for example. We can see here we've got the same thing on this one. It's a little bit wonky, but it's still an arrow shape. So again, we're going to take 105 and half it, and that gives me my angle x, which is 52.5, 52.5 degrees. The next one looks a bit wonky again, and again we have the 2 points going from the centre and going to the edge. So it is still an arrow shape, it's just that this point has kind of moved from where it would normally be, perhaps up here. Okay, but it is still an arrow shape, therefore x is going to be half of 73, and that's going to give me 36.5. So something to be careful of, if the question looks like this last one, don't mistake it for the bow theorem. It's not a bow because this time it's going to the centre. Okay, so it's going to the centre and it's going to the edge. There's those two separate things happening, so that's what creates the arrow shape.